Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation after nearly a decade as Canada's Prime Minister. The Liberal Party will now pause Parliament until March as they prepare for a leadership race amongst the frontrunners to replace him. Well, Anita Anand is in the race to replace him. She's a 57-year-old transport minister known for her strong governance and public service. Anita Anand, alongside other key contenders like Pierre, Poilievre and Chrystia, Freeland, is now seen as a top candidate to lead Canada in the upcoming spring elections. And let's quickly take a look at some details on this big story, of course, where we are tracking, of course, clearly how Anita Anand now is ahead in this race. She is an Indian origin leader amongst the top frontrunners to be replacing Trudeau as Canada's PM. Anita Anand, of course, pictured here, is amongst the frontrunners. Let's quickly go to the next slide if we can. Her mother is Saroj D. Ram and her father is S.V. Anand. They were both Indian physicians and her father was from the Tamil Nadu, in fact, and her mother hails from Punjab. She is, of course, of Indian origin, as you can see there. She also holds multiple law degrees, including a master's in law from the University of Toronto. She's been appointed to oversee Canada's transport sector while continuing as a president of the Treasury Board as well there in Canada. And she also represented Oakville. She was elected to the Canadian House of Commons to serve her community. She also led reforms in military culture and addressed sexual misconduct within the Canadian Armed Forces as well. And she became a licensed lawyer and began a legal career in Ontario after completing her studies. She also spearheaded contract talks to secure critical vaccines, PPE and rapid tests for Canadians during the pandemic as well. She also introduced key reforms to improve culture and address misconduct in the Canadian military. She also taught law and held the prestigious Junior Kimber Chair in Investor Protection and Corporate Governance as well. She also served as Associate Dean and Director of Policy and Research at the Capital Markets Institute. It's a bit of a background on Anita Anand. And she also coordinated and led efforts to provide vital military assistance to Ukraine's following Russia's invasion as well there and the start of that Ukraine-Russia war. Aditya Vadhavan is joining us for more details on this story. Aditya, what's the latest you can share with us about Anita Anand? Is she now the front runner to replace Justin Trudeau?
Well, absolutely, Uday. As you rightly mentioned, Anita Anand is running as a front runner to be the probable next Prime Minister of Canada. You know, this signifies how there is a large Indian diaspora that is present in Canada, which there is a good support for Anita Anand. There are some other members. There are some other members of the Liberal Party also, like Chrystia, who is also one of the another front runner in the race to become the Prime Minister of Canada. But so far, Anita Anand's name is coming up, and we know that she is of Indian origin. Uday, let us remind our viewers that it is not a new thing that Indians are becoming the prime ministers of other foreign countries. In the recent past, we have seen that Rishi Sunak, who is also married to Narayan Murthy's daughter, also became the UK's PM. So this is not a new phenomena that Indians are becoming the prime ministers of other countries, and this is in line with the past trend which has been happening. And it needs to be seen as to whether she will Anita Anand will she go on to become the Prime Minister of Canada or not. This needs to be seen. But so far she is the front runner. She is getting good support from the Indian caucuses and the Indian diaspora that is present in Canada. Because there has been because Trudeau was anti-India and he was working on the behest of this Khalistanis lobby that exists in Canada. He had to step down. This shows that there is a there is a chance that Anita Anand might go on to become the next Canadian PM. Yes, Uday, back to you in the studios.
All right, thank you for joining us, Aditya, with those details. Major General Sudhakarji, defense expert, is in fact also joining us now live. Major General Sudhakarji, who according to you is leading this race, and what are the factors determining, Trudeau's successor?
Uday, good afternoon. Thank you for getting me on phone now. And as regards to question which you are raising, I personally feel that Canada as a nation state has gone through a huge turmoil and turbulent phase during Justice Trudeau's time, and it deserves to have a kind of a balanced exposure to the global dynamics. In 21st century, the global order is going through a huge churn. There is a huge polarization. There is a factor of diplomacy taking a good beating as far as Canada is concerned. Then you talk about the time, the intelligence and the information, the military component, the economy. All the four important aspects, the primary attributes to actually comment on such an issue are actually taking a very, very hammering and battering. So in a circumstance like this, in my opinion, Anita is the best choice. Not that she is an Indian, but going by her profile, if you take a deeper look at the CV that you just covered in the television channel, you see the kind of exposure she has had is something very, very envious. Talk about the investment, talk about the corporate, talk about the defense ministry, talk about the vaccine management, talk about the supply chain of hardware support to Ukraine, the conflict in Ukraine. You see, G7 countries, Canada is one of the important leading economies, regardless of how Justin Trudeau actually behaved during his tenure, very, very amateurish, I would say immature manner. I think Canada as a leading economy of the world, as a member of the G7, member of NATO, and a very close ally of USA, deserves to have a very mature leadership, and that is there in Anita, and I think she is going to do proud to the Indian community. There is a groundswell. Going by the inputs which I am getting from my friends in Canada and my relatives in USA, it gives a very clear indication that she is the one which is in the front runner, and she is the one which is going to give a very mature and balanced leadership for a futuristic, progressive growth of Canada in all aspects. Whether you talk about the drug cattle, she's going to come down quite heavily. She's got very deep knowledge about the administration. Talk about the law and order situation. Talk about the rising penetration. The Chinese have penetrated into the Canada society and the way of life. That is why Donald Trump is, taunting Canada that it becomes the 51st member of United States. It will cut off all the taxes and tariffs and all that. So this game will go on. But going by whatever inputs are coming in, 2 months more to go for the elections in March, I think Anita Anand has got the right potential, right caliber, right exposure, and maturity and responsibility to lead the nation to a very progressive and rising path of economy as also the military might in 21st century. And we hope, she being an Indian, that there is going to be a spontaneous, balanced rule of law as applicable across the board on the face of planet. Rule of law cannot have new definitions. It has to apply as much to India as that of Canada. India's problem has to be understood by her. She has to India will understand her problems. And let's take our trade balance to a greater height. India and Canada at one point in time, they had reached a very, very high milestone as far as the trade balance is concerned. I am sure 10 billion is nothing.
All right. Major General Sudhakarji, thank you very much for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.